Welcome, everybody. My name is Marina. I'm part of the PMF team. Today, we're going to be having a quick but amazing webinar with Malte Scholz from airfocus. First of all, I will give you a very quick introduction of what we do, and then I will just give him time to enlighten your next things. So at PMF, we are part of Peak Product company. We do have many initiatives trying to keep the product management community together, united, and sharing knowledge all together. We have initiatives that you can see in this slide, such as the Trends and Benchmarks, which is a yearly report we do by running a survey through as many product managers and similar that we can get our hands on. Then we put all the data together and bring some amazing insights. We are normally famous from our leadership perspective. There's other reports that will focus more on product itself. We try to focus more on company development and similars. We have local PM nights, which means we have face-to-face meetings during the evenings, kind of off-key with any PMs in different cities throughout the world. We have some in Zurich, we have in New York, we have them anywhere really. We have many ambassadors throughout the planet. And then we have our product executive circles, which are invitation-only discussions where we bring executives to have a safe environment to discuss their issues and similar. We have our INSEAD Product Management Executive Program, which is for people that are slowly reaching a higher position and want some guidance, which is a 4-day course in France, and sometimes we have enough quorum in San Francisco. We bring seniors from all over the place. It's a very structured program. It's very nice. I would highly recommend. And then our Piece de Resistance, the conference in Zurich and Singapore, which gathers more than 800 PMs on good years, more than 1,200. We have many speakers, we have activities, we have coaching, we have our partners doing demos of their products and so on. It's a very, very nice gathering. It's a 2-day conference. And finally, what you're here for today, our webinar sessions, which we have our PMF Connects. We work with our partners to bring knowledge online so anyone from anywhere can come here for free and then see the results and everything. And today I'm introducing Malte. He's the co-founder, CEO, CPO at airfocus, all the C's. He will give us a very thorough, like very cool topic today, like the non-negotiables, which I really like the idea of, okay, there's things that I couldn't do, but today we're going to learn the things that we should really do. And I'll give him his moment. Hi, Malte.
Hi, thanks so much for having me today.
Thanks.
All right. So, all right. Yeah, welcome all of you, and thanks again, Product Management Festival, for the invite. I said in the minutes before the recording that I will also join the next session in Zurich. Very excited. Yeah, so this headline, I think, gives a good overview about what we're going to cover today. The second part, the 3 non-negotiables, is the interesting part. It's very clickbaity, right? It sounds very exciting. The reality is that like the 3 things are indeed very negotiable in some companies, which we will learn. But that's about to change, or should change. So more on this in a few slides. So before we start, super shortly about me. Yes, I'm the 3C guy, co-founder, and yeah, the other stuff. And I worked as a SaaS product manager for more than 3.5 years in a 200 employee company. And this is where I kind of knocked my head against the wall every day because I was battling spreadsheets and PowerPoints and really struggling with this kind of art and science of product management, kind of getting the problem space and the solution space kind of connected. And I was kind of looking for a platform that helped with all of that. And I tried all the tools and I couldn't find the one that I liked. And that's why I became interested in this problem and started airfocus as a side project in the very beginning. Yeah, nowadays I'm kind of leading this fantastic team here in Hamburg and all over the world, and we're trying to build the world's best product management platform. And I'm also a father of two, so yeah, my life is currently not so boring. I wish sometimes I would also just go to warm countries like Mariana and scuba dive. Not so much the case anymore these days. All right, let's jump into the agenda today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the state of product management today. And then I'm going to do a deep dive into the 3 non-negotiables. And you can already see the teaser here. So it's about actionable product strategy, customer centricity, and then my favorite topic, empowered product teams. And we are also going to have some time at the end to talk about your questions. And hopefully I can give some answers. All right. Before we dive into what modern product management is, let's talk about this state of product management. So we recently interviewed more than 600 product managers, and the data that we got confirms kind of what we all know, that product management is the mission critical part for almost all companies and industries. This is the good news. But there is also a little bit of, worrying news, which is that almost 90% of the PMs still claim to be somewhat trapped in the feature factory, and they're not focusing on outcomes enough, and they're more busy with stakeholder management and project management. And it's just struggling to really do all the things that we read about every day around modern discovery and modern product management. So I think all of this, these problems, let's call them problems, they lead to a lot of waste. So there are studies, for example, from Gartner, that show that up to 70% of the things we all build have zero or little or no, or sometimes even negative impact, right? And so there's room for improvement and a lot of work ahead for all of us. So the question is, how do you solve that? What is good and modern product management all about? And I really like to now start with this slide, which is probably not new for you, but it's really good reminder about what product management actually is. So in line with all the greats like Kagan and Ericsson, product management is about discovering a product that is valuable, viable, usable, and feasible. And yeah, product management really is this intersection between the UX and the customer, right, and the technology, and then the business needs. Yeah, and I really love this chart. I reference it probably 5 times per year because it symbolizes so nicely why product is so hard, because you're in the middle wearing all these hats and trying to make magic happen. Yeah. So let's now get a bit more concrete. So as you've seen in the agenda, we've defined these 3 success criteria, the non-negotiables of modern product management. And in a sense, it's about generating the right kind of outcomes for the business, right? This is what we are striving to do. And all of that in this kind of messy environment between technological possibilities and customer needs. And yeah, it's kind of like the result of this actionable product strategy that is usually expressed, or which usually results in the product roadmap. And then it's the customer centricity. I think this is not a surprise to all of you. We hear this probably every day. You should focus and listen to the customer. So customer centricity through a deep understanding and a shared understanding also about what customers express and want, and then the ability to translate this into insights for the product team. Yeah, and then the last point really is my favorite point, it's about empower teams that move fast. And I think this last and third point is especially crucial in this current phase of the market, where there's like macroeconomic struggles. There are crazy layoffs happening, so you have to do more with less in complicated environments. So this move fast point is like getting more and more important. Yeah. So let's double click now on like each of the three criteria, and let's start with the actionable product strategy. And I'm not now gonna read a little bit. So product strategy is the logical plan of how the product will help to achieve business outcomes. Yeah. So it's about how to make the product vision a reality while meeting the needs of the company as you go. So the key thing here is that your product strategy really states and measures very specific objectives or problems to solve rather than features to build. Yeah. So the product strategy is not a list of features. It's this plan. Yeah. And if you don't have a plan, we all know what Mike Tyson said, you get punched in the face. Yeah. Even if you have a plan. So while your strategy really depends on the context, and it can be like very different, and some people call it a vision, some people call it a mission, and you have like all these kind of this complexity and the uniqueness within the product strategy. I think the product strategy always ultimately manifests in the product roadmap. Yeah. And the product roadmap, again, here definition is the document that communicates the direction that you're going to take to achieve the goals that the company is aiming for. It aligns, and this is the key point, it aligns your teams towards the common goal. Yeah. So it's really the common denominator. Yeah. We all use product roadmaps. I think that's pretty clear. And for me, as someone who kind of built a product management platform, I can see that in the data, right? All our customers, they use our road mapping functionality, but just like other functionalities, they maybe just use like half of them or 30%, but everyone comes here for road mapping. So this is the thing that we all have, but we understand very different things about what a roadmap is. I'm going to get to that in a minute, but I would like to dive a bit deeper on this product strategy part. And this is, by the way, this is not coming from me. This is coming from the one and only Lenny, which you should all check out. A big fan of all his stuff. So I'm stealing a bit here. So here we're seeing some real world examples of product strategies. Yeah. So let's take the example of Uber. So they launched Uber Black in the beginning to bring down prices by launching Uber X, right? And then bring prices down by launching Uber Pool, and then bring down price again by launching scooters and bikes. And all of that by having this kind of these networks effect that allow you to offer stuff cheaper and bring more people in, and then you have like kind of this loop. And this was all planned from the very beginning. And you find like all the great tech companies, you find that there is a plan behind the things that they're doing, right? And sometimes they have to change the plan, and sometimes the plan is written in a very different way, but there's usually always a plan. And then you can kind of read the other examples here from Substack, for example, and also an example from airfocus actually. So how we kind of in a way planned, but also like changing plans, right? and now we're kind of with this modular product management platform that solves like the core product management pains. Yeah. And on this way, we are now kind of moving stage 3, which is all about like guiding product managers to build better products with like around these like modern ways of thinking around product management and discovery. Yeah. So it's about like breaking down the vision, trying to look into the future and see where you're going, and all of that usually expressed in or like kind of coded into this roadmap format. So I also brought some checklists here for you. I hope they're kind of actionable, and I will also have these checklists for the other 2 things that you will learn about in a few minutes. So let me maybe remove these things. I think they're a bit annoying. Yeah. So these checklist, how should you work with them, right? These are the things that you should remember, and they're a little bit like the things that you could bring to your like coach or to your head of or to the team when you discuss, I don't know, product strategy, right? This is probably food for thought for you to figure out whether you're on track and maybe what you need to change. Yeah. And the number one thing here is outcomes. Is your team given features to build, or are you asked to solve problems? Yeah. Make sure your strategy states measurable and specific objectives. Yeah. And the last point, the middle point, sorry, is about road mapping. Yeah. And the first thing that you can probably start working on is really making sure that you find like a different abstraction level for roadmaps. Yeah. Strike through all the features that you have on your roadmap, change the format from timelines to something like a non-escalator roadmap or something similar, and really make sure that you're kind of thinking and talking about high-level initiatives, big problems to solve, rather than like little features that like some customer asks about. Yeah. And I'm not saying like timelines are bad or you shouldn't like do proper planning around deadlines and all of that stuff. I know that's part of the job, but this is like release plans and delivery timelines, and it should happen at a different stage and at a different abstraction or hierarchy level in the process. So, and then the third part here is really about the metrics. Yeah, are you kind of measuring success in terms of just the features or the vanity metrics, or the actual customer value that is delivered and the business outcomes that you achieve? Yeah, and these are the things that I hope you can bring to your next session, and I'm also more than happy to support with that. So send over questions. We have like a whole team that thinks about this all the time, tries to consult. Yeah, and maybe the airfocus platform also is a good starting point to set this up. Okay, let's move now to the customer centricity point, which is a little bit the kind of captain obvious of all the topics, right? Because we hear about it all the time. The best and high performing product organizations set up feedback management systems that inform the work of the product team. Yeah, so they can really understand what problems the people have and then solve accordingly. Yeah, and here I also brought a checklist for you, and I think the whole process starts at the centralization. You wanna kind of put all the feedback in like one or many places, but at least you need to make sure that it's all there and that you're kind of looking at the same data. Yeah, and I know it's very can be very overwhelming, but if you're just not doing it, you're gonna miss out on like these key feedback points, these key insights. So make sure to collect all the feedback in a central repository, and also make sure that it's accessible, that the people in your team can read the feedback, can get back to the people who provided the feedback, may it be the support agent or even directly the customer who reported it, so you get the full context, because with feedback, it's all about the context. Yeah. And then the last point is make sure you're making these connections between the feedback and the product work that that you're doing. Yeah. And this may happen on multiple hierarchy levels again. Think about the road mapping checklist where we said you want to talk about like the high level strategic roadmap at some point, but sometimes you also want to talk about user stories, right? And feedback should be linked accordingly, because otherwise it's going to be useless, and sitting in this central repository is not going to help then, right? So point A here only makes sense when you also do the insights creation process, the linking of relevant feedback pieces with the product work, so that when you're working on that product item, you have the feedback available and you get the context. Righty, so let's now talk about my favorite topic, the empowered teams that move fast. So I'm going to read one last time. Every product team is unique, and so are their workflows and tools. For these teams to succeed and solve hard problems fast, they need to be empowered. And let's all repeat, they need to be empowered with trust and autonomy to shape their own processes. Yeah. So they need to shape their own processes from the discovery and the very beginning to the delivery at the very end when they hand over stuff to engineering. And yeah, this is really in these times the core framework that's gonna not just help you get the strategy right, not just help you kind of listen to the customers and understand them, but also be fast and solve the right problems with these limited resources that we are facing these days, right? So there are a lot of frameworks now out there on how to kind of solve this discovery to delivery process, yeah? And irrespective of whether you use like the dual track agile framework or the double diamond framework, what all these frameworks have in common is that they differentiate between the problem space, the discovery, and the solution space, yeah, the delivery. When you're trying to kind of bring these solutions to life, and the product discovery really helps you figure out the problems as well as tactics. Then, while the product delivery builds that solution so you can bring it to market. Yeah, and the best product organizations, they make sure that the product discovery and the delivery, they are kind of like very close together, and that they're like these feedback loops, and that there's a proper communication going on between these two phases. And they empower their teams to implement workflows in this kind of messy environment between the discovery and the delivery that makes sense for them. Yeah, so you want to kind of give the teams the tools and the freedom and the authority and the trust so they can figure out something that works for them. And this is not just like the theory behind like the modern product management. This is based on actual data that we're getting from our customers every day, that we're seeing in the data, and that also, to be honest, makes a lot of sense if you just think about it, right? The products, the companies, the teams, they're just too unique and too different and too complex, and they cannot all work the same way. And they need to kind of embrace this more than like be afraid of it, and kind of just accept it, and then make sure that these teams kind of find their way, while at the same time kind of being in line with like point 1 and point 2, which is like being strategic, following the roadmap, challenging the roadmap, but like all aligning on the roadmap, and then making sure the stuff that you're doing in your workspace or in your like individual team is in line with this higher level strategy. And then secondly, you also like listening to the customers. So the strategy and the customer centricity, they're kind of the guardrails that make sure you're naturally doing the right things. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about real world examples, because they're kind of showing much better what I'm talking about. Yeah. So let's take this example here of a company with 3 teams. So team A maybe follows dual track agile for whatever reason. Maybe they had like a special coaching, or they tried other stuff and this just works best. And then they work on like 2-week sprints. They love the RISE prioritization framework for the stuff that's a bit later in the discovery lifecycle, where they have like just too many things in the backlog, and they need a way to prioritize what to do next. And team A, like team B, they work on Jira for all the delivery, and they're like working with Amplitude around the data and the analytics. Yeah. And then team B, sorry, I need to take a. Team B maybe then follows a double diamond methodology, which is like not too different from the other one, but there are like these slight differences in the workflow. Yeah. And then later in Jira, they are more following of a Kanban, a development workflow, and maybe they're using like the way the shortest job first prioritization framework, right, in order to figure out what to do next on the backlog. Yeah. And then this team, because they're maybe working on the, I don't know, mobile app, they're really big fans of the full story user recordings, and they're building the entire discovery around this analytics tool. Yeah. And then there's the third team, which runs like waterfall-like workflows, and you may think, what the heck are they doing? And they like also have no feedback processes. But to be honest, there might be good reasons why they work the way they work. Maybe there's like a lot of room to improve, but you have to also embrace why they are working like they're working, and you still want to give them the trust and the authority to do this, and then gradually improve from there, maybe. Because you have the roadmap and you have the customer centricity. If these two things are secured, you can trust the team C to also deliver customer value eventually. So here are the checklist for your team. So is your team given the trust to design their own product management tech stack? So each team is unique, and so should be their tool stack. Yeah, they should be to a certain extent be able to pick the tools and the tech stack that they need in order to get the job done. And then the second point is super interesting. It's about the alignment. Yeah, it's about they should be loosely coupled yet closely aligned, right? And this is a trade-off, obviously. Yeah, it's not like a recipe that you can use everywhere. It's very individual. Yeah, sometimes you want to kind of be just very focused around the strategy in the team, and just follow that. But sometimes you kind of want to move away from that a little bit. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that there are different tools and different ways of working depending on the organization, and that life here is all about trade-offs. Yeah. And then the third point is the velocity. Yeah. If you want the empowered team to move fast, you can measure this by kind of the number of experiments that they're running. Yeah. So from the data, high performing teams run experiments fast and often, and they learn quickly. Yeah. So it's about moving fast by failing fast, and then trying again. So this is the framework, the final framework once again. And yeah, I think it's a really good framework. And by the way, it's not something that like the people at airfocus completely made up. It's really based on the underlying product management methodology and research that's going on for a long time. But we've kind of dove deeper, as you've seen in this topic of the empowered teams. And I strongly believe that that this empowered teams thing is something that's really missing in a lot of the companies, and it's really at the center of like the modern way of working. If, and this is very important, if the things that they're doing are rooted in a good product strategy and customer centricity. Yeah, and that's why because we strongly believe in this framework and this abstraction of the reality. That's why we built the entire airfocus platform around this idea of like, again, an actual product strategy, customer centricity, and the empowered teams. And I would like to now spend 2 minutes on showing how this could actually work in airfocus. And I promise this is not a sales pitch or anything. I just want to highlight a little bit how this could be done in your company, and you could use any other tool. It doesn't need to be airfocus. But for example, in airfocus, we have a template that's called full product management workflow, and this is giving you all of this out of the box. Yeah. So what you're seeing here is that you now have kind of three workspaces that kind of allow you to really bring this modern product management framework to life. And the most important thing here is the strategic roadmap. This is the plan that kind of translates your product strategy on a higher level. And we're not talking about features here. We're not talking about like all that small stuff. We're talking about a few items on a high level roadmap that also multiple teams can kind of sync up with a feature in airfocus called hierarchy, which allows you to, and we're now switching to the workspace of one of the teams. And with this team, when you're talking about epics and opportunities and so on, you can kind of connect to this higher level initiatives on the roadmap. Yeah, so you want to make sure, regardless of kind of what you're doing in this messy opportunity pipeline or this messy discovery process, you want to make sure that the things that you're talking and working on, that they are connected to these high-level roadmap initiatives at all times, right? You want to make sure that you're kind of following the insights, and this is the third use case in airfocus. But most and foremost, you really need to follow the bigger strategy, because in these times with limited resources, there's no time to just like do busy work all the time. Yeah. So here in this opportunity pipeline, this is the space where each of the teams, maybe it's also like divided by product or business unit, but this is the place where the teams can build a product management workflow that makes sense for them, right? This is the place where you can empower them, right? They can, I don't know, run their backlog in a certain way. They can use a prioritization framework if they want it. If they don't want it, they just don't use it. They can kind of configure this workflow from new stuff to stuff that you want to then push to Jira. You can work on timelines if that's for you, all up to you, right? And the important thing, again, is you're rolling up to the roadmap and your customer centricity by linking customer feedback. And this is the third point, and after that, I'm going to be done. This is an inbox that allows you to centralize the feedback from your intercom, your Slack, your Salesforce, wherever it lives, and then you go into that feedback and then you create these insights, as I mentioned earlier. So you think this part of the conversation is relevant, go here and create that magical insight connection to the product work in this other workspace. Yeah. So going back to the presentation, thank you so much for following me today. And if you are interested in kind of this topic of modern product management and potentially also how to use that in airfocus, we have this QR code here for you to read a very detailed guide on this. And you can also obviously play with the demo or reach out on LinkedIn if you want to talk product. Yeah, that's it. Thanks so much, guys, and I'm looking forward to questions now.
Thank you, Malte. Thank you so much. I feel like you were so clear that people are not going to have that many questions. I really, really enjoyed the checklist. It made things very, very straightforward to follow.
Yeah, who doesn't like checklists, right?
They were too good. All right, we have Timo asking a question. Timo, would you like to read it out loud? You can be part of the conversation here. If not, I'll, yeah.
Yeah, sure, I can do. Hi. Basically, Timo from Element Logic, the warehouse company in Norway. So my question is, if a company, for example, is rather far away from state-of-the-art product management, then how would you see the topic of having fully empowered teams and giving them a fully free choice of tools? Is that actually a good idea from your perspective, or should we rather think about gathering them on one tool to begin with?
Great question. So obviously it always depends. I don't know all the context, but I mean, if you get people on the same platform, that's usually a great idea. You want to like not just centralize feedback, but you also want to create a single source of truth for like all the product work, obviously, right? This is more kind of like the general idea of allowing the teams to do what works for them. I know it sounds like very like trivial, and I've repeated it like multiple times, but the tool thing is just an example, and it's maybe not for the like product management platform or the development platform, right? I think there's also benefits if the entire company is using Jira, but the reality is just that's not always the case. And you should focus on making sure that the people understand the strategy and the roadmap, and that they participate in the road mapping process on the one hand, and then on the other hand that you're just not developing in the basement, but you're like engaging with the customers. And this is probably like 100 of years old wisdom, but it's just very difficult to implement in like scaling and complex organizations. And this is just from our experience much more important than that the workflows are all the same and that we are all following SAFe and Scrum and so on. It's much more important that you are strategic and customer centric. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that resonates quite a bit and answers the question very well. Thanks, Malte.
Great, thanks.
Audrey has a question as well. Audrey, would you like to say it out loud? Oh, the mic doesn't work. So I'll ask on her behalf. It says, in young startups with limited number of colleagues, but a lot to deliver fast, how do you carve out the time to design and deliver proper strategy work / planning versus day-to-day delivery that tends to take up everyone's time? Strategy is indeed what drives all teams. However, when in early stage and running after funding, etc., there is often no time ever, day or night, to spend a few days or weeks focusing on strategy.
Yeah, great question. I can resonate very well with this question because we are also a startup. We are just 60 people. Yeah, fantastic question. I couldn't agree more. Well, I think the good part about this situation is that you probably have a strong leadership team, a strong founder that is very involved with the strategy and has thought very hard about it every minute of the day. So probably in this case, you can trust this person a lot that the things make sense, which probably saves you a few iterations on this complicated, messy process, because usually the founders or the people on these small teams, they're very driven and they intrinsically want to do the right thing. If they're like not optimizing for like short-term gains, like, I don't know, I want to sell in 3 weeks, and that's why we're building like stupid features because this is going to get us purchased or acquired. But usually that's not the case, but the founders say looking to provide customer value intrinsically, right? So they're doing this intrinsically. So I think this is the good situation that you're facing. But nevertheless, I know this from myself. I think whenever you take the time, you block, I don't know, 1 or 2 days with the key people, and you don't do anything else. I never came back from these sessions and said this was a waste of time. It has always been very fruitful.
Awesome. We have another question from DM. I don't know what that stands for. Apologies. Would you like to say it out loud? Otherwise, no mic either. We're having this supply chain crisis here. All right, so it says, as a new product manager, I'm somewhat lost in how to transition from features to the higher level problems to solve. The problem to solve rather rarely changes, but there are usually gaps in features that need to be closed. How best to stay at that higher level?
Great question. So at the end of the day, you need to work with features, right? So it's just part of the job. This is what you will hand over to the delivery teams or like to your engineers or however you get stuff done. So if you're like very certain that these features that you have in your backlog very well match the roadmap and the strategy, and they are you like have the right features there, then you actually are in a pretty good position, and you don't maybe need to do anything else. The problem is this is not always the case, and you can not always know whether this is the case if you don't make the exercise of mapping your features that you have thought of to these higher level problems, and also discussing these higher level problems. And for that, You just need to kind of create this new level of the higher level problems. And this is in many companies not the case. You need to have like this list of the 10 to 20 or 10 to 50 high level initiatives in the now, next, later. Yeah, and the later is maybe stuff that you're never doing or that's 2 years out. But this conversation alone is a super complicated conversation, and I'm not sure like this is always like perfectly mapped out. But if you have this conversation first, so you're talking about the high level roadmap and these 10 to 50 initiatives, and then you go back to this other level and you look, okay, what are the features or epics or whatever that you actually have? I'm sure you will find stuff that you're not so sure about anymore, whether you should do them, right? And if that's not the case, and you're very confident that you have the right features and they're all solving problems and generating business outcomes, bravo. You can, I don't know, worry about other things. For example, how to get faster, how to get more resources. Yeah, that's then a little bit independent from this conversation today, which is great if you're there.
Thank you, Malte. I think we're kind of reaching the end of today's session a little bit because Malte, you've had some more to go. Do you think is there any other questions that people would like to very quickly go through? All right, seems like we're good to go. I think we don't have anyone asking anything else. Malte, thank you so much for today's session. I really enjoyed we really enjoyed how any questions you were given, short and long, you were able to answer on the spot. Checklist forever, and and hope to see you soon somewhere, maybe in person in Zurich, maybe somewhere else. And thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here today, and hopefully see you in our next webinar.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Thanks for the moderation.
Bye, everybody.
Also. Bye.